Sure, no. Yes.
Do you need others?
No, I'm good. Oh, I see. Ah. I forgot my laptop. Would you mind if I took notes on my phone?
No, I would not mind that.
Just so I'm not texting or
Yeah.
something.
Like with the magic carpet.
Do we have a spare rose? Yeah.
We have many spare.
Oh dear.
Turned it on the back.
Oh, that's actually turning it off. We're probably already on. And we're gonna turn it off. So this is,
Oh, so the battery died.
maybe. Let's
Do
see.
you need a spare
You're
rose?
totally right.
A couple years ago, maybe you were happy with the battery.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I don't care.
I would like to put on the wall.
There's it.
I already tried it wrong.
So I learned more now.
There is someone where I can trust this.
Oh yeah.
Is there room for
Right there. Yeah.
Can I ask you to stop it when we have a break if we have?
You know what?
We don't
I can't be held responsible for that because I will forget.
Okay.
You know what? There's a plug-in right there.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
better.
There's no way I'll remember.
No, okay, don't worry.
I can't even remember my own.
It's okay. Thank you.
Although, if you catch my attention and ask me, I could stop it. But I won't think of it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Where are you?
Hello, everybody. I was looking at the screen. It looks like we're like filming from a music store. It's all guitars. We went to some guitar shop or something. So thank you for coming. I think that there's no room in here to do prostrations. Once we get settled in, it would just be like this chaos. If we just had it. So I think our prostrations will be prayers, right? Because it is a prostration. It's one thing to do. Some of you in here, may not know a lot about prostrations or anything about prostrations, and you don't have to do prostrations. But it's one thing to do a physical prostration, right? And you lay your body, your speech, and it's symbolic of going for refuge. Right? I offer my body, my speech, and my mind to holy beings or to the teachings. Right? You could think of it. You could think of it like I've made a choice. Right? I've made a choice to. Well, we make prostrations all the time. But what do we prostrate to, right? Like, we prostrate to commerce. We prostrate to the television. We prostrate to, we bow down. We bow down to things that we believe are important or that will bring us happiness. And a big part of this course is going to be trying to change our minds, trying to discover what it is that we do think is going to bring us happiness, a lasting kind of happiness, and maybe some new ideas about what actually can bring us a lasting kind of a happiness, right? So, you know, if we believe that, okay, I believe that if I purchase this vehicle, if I purchase this vehicle, it's going to give me some happiness. It's going to function for me in a way that's going to give me some happiness. And then we go down and sign on the line, make payment plans. You know, regardless of whatever the interest payments are, you just, you know, they offer us this piece of metal that's in a certain shape, right? It's a certain color and it's in a certain shape. For some reason, it's appealing. It's like, yeah, that metal in that shape is exactly what I need. And I'm going to get inside that thing and I'm going to roll around and I'm going to feel good. And so we go to the dealer or whatever it is, and then they know that we are like this. And so they say, well, yeah, you can have it, you know, and here's the price. But that's not really the price. And by the time you pay for it, really you're going to be paying twice as much. But I know that right now you're not concerned about that. Right now you're concerned about is getting in that piece of metal and driving off this lot. That's all you care about right now. And so in those kinds of times, when we experience those kinds of things, whether it's a car or even, you know, anything, you know, just use car for now. You're prostrating to the car. You're laying everything down. You're like, yes, I will give my body and I will give my speech and my mind for this piece of metal. I will go to work. I'll give time. I will use my body. I will go to work and I will work these hours, and those hours will amount to a certain amount of money, and that certain amount of money will eventually give me the illusion that I actually own this car. Right? So prostrations, we're not, you know, we say, oh, prostrations in the West, right? It's a foreign idea. It's not a foreign idea. We just don't realize that we're prostrating all the time. You know, I prostrate to Snicker bars constantly. I mean, yeah. Snickers bars, chocolate bars, right? Yeah, this will give me like 5 minutes of relief. So I bow down to the Snickers. Yeah, how much is it? Great. It's on sale. Perfect. I'll get 2 of them. So, you know, you can make a physical prostration, like, okay, body, speech, mind, to a statue of a Buddha or to a teacher that's teaching Buddhism. And you could just be going through the motions. I'm just like everyone else is doing it, so I guess I better do it. Or you can make a real prostration, and a real prostration is in your mind. It's what's happening in your mind that's a prostration, right? There's a certain point in your Buddhist career where you sort of like you reach this place where you're, depending on what level you're at and what, like when you reach the tantras, part of your commitment, actually even earlier than that, is to make prostration. And it's so many times a day. And it's enough. It's a real prostration. If you sit down and you just think about the qualities of your Lama, if you think about the good qualities of your teacher, or if you think about the good qualities of the teachings, or if you think about, wow, you know, it's amazing if I could reach renunciation and bodhicitta and wisdom. That's a prostration right there. So when we do our prayers, and if we think about what the prayers mean, we're making our prostrations. And so it's not like, right? The physical body is one more way of planting the karma, but make no mistake, it's the mental attitude that is the prostration. So we'll do the prayers, and so there's people here that are new, or maybe really only one that's totally new. Hi. Yeah. We do these prayers as an offering for the teachings, and we imagine in our mind that we're offering the universe, offering sky full of flowers, right? Abundance of offerings, because there is no price that can pay. There is no amount of monetary. You couldn't pile enough dollars up to pay for a teaching that could offer you what money could never buy, which is freedom from suffering. Right? So we make like a mandala offering, and then the second part of the prayers was when you're saying, okay, I will go for refuge. I will go for refuge to the teachings. I'll go for refuge to the Buddha, to the Dharma, to the Sangha. So let's just start like that. And we'll say, we've done our prostrations then. And we make this hand mandala with our hands. And you don't have to do this. You can also make a bowl, like you're making an offering. If you'd like to, maybe Amanda can show you how to do it. There, you got it. It's symbolic. The fingers coming up in the middle is symbolic of Mount Meru. And Mount Meru, in Tibetan cosmology, they have this teaching where they believe that Mount Meru is at the center of everything, and everything revolves around Mount Meru. Mount Meru is like the center of the world, the pillar of the world. So you're offering the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? And then all the surrounding. In ACI we get into it, but all the surrounding continents and oceans and everything is supposed to be surrounding this mountain.
So they really believe there was a mountain, like geographically, or is it more of a conceptual mountain?
Well, kind of both. It's a long story.
Okay.
It's fun. It's a fun long story. But yeah, they actually believe the world is flat.
Except for mountain.
I mean, flat. Like,
Not round. Yes.
Yeah. So let's not go there.
Okay.
The world was actually flat when everybody believed it was.
Sure. Yeah. Sure it was. Absolutely was. I'm still not sure it's round. I haven't been all the way around it yet. Right, unless you're an astronaut, right? Okay, so
Oh,
that's right.
Is it really?
no, not all the way.
So and when we do these prayers, what happens is someone will be the person who starts, and the person who starts just says the first word, and then everybody joins in. So how about Mishi start? Buki Jukshin Mei Tog Tran Ri Rabling Shi Yende Gen Padi Sange Shindu Mite Uwa Giro Kumnanda Shingwa Shupasho Idanguru Chudan Soki Choknam Sanchu Badu Ni Kapsuchi Yaki Jinyan Gipe Sunamki Rola Pinche Sange Drupasho Chudan Soki Choknam Sanchu Badu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Jinyan Gipe Sunamki Rola Pinche Sange Drupasho Chudan Soki Choknam Sanju Badu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Jinyan Gipe Sunamki Rola Pinche Sange Drupasho So, ACI 1. How glorious is that? Unbelievable glory. Marge's like, oh, thank God it's just 1. Marge arrived in 12. It's like one of the most difficult courses that there is. Depending. ACI 13 is pretty rough too. So thank you for coming. I'm very happy to be teaching this. I think it's my 3rd time teaching this course. I don't know how many years ago it was, but I was in meditation one day and this light went on and I thought, oh, I got to teach the ACI courses. And I've been teaching them ever since. So, it's a pizza guy. Gluten free.
How's it going? Yeah, thank you. Sorry,
Hello. No
sorry to
problem.
interrupt.
It's okay.
Namaste.
Okay. Great. Has Turnji got a spot when she comes?
Turn she comes and can't make it after all.
Oh, she can't. Okay. So this course is going to be a step-by-step kind of overview of the whole path. What was your name?
Beirang.
Beirang?
Yeah,
What a great name. I'm John.
thank you.
Pleased to meet you,
Nice to
Beirang.
meet you.
Thanks for coming. Beirang. Maybe you're the only one.
The only Beirang.
Yeah. Have you ever met any other
Hope so.
Beirangs?
No, not yet.
Yeah, so this is an entire overview of the whole path, really. And you can think of it like this. This is a nice way to think of it. Like, remember paint by numbers? Yeah. So ACI 1 is like the lines, right? All the lines, and you'll get lines and like numbers, and then ACI 2, 3, 4, 5, all will be like painting in the insides. So it will color it all in. And this will give you a good start about the broad ideas, and we'll definitely be diving into some of the ideas for sure. But it will give you a good start. And I thought it would be good. So does anyone here not have a meditation practice? Wow, a room full of meditators. Amazing. That's important. That's important. Because on the meditation cushion is where these ideas can come to fruition. Because these ideas are going to require some thinking. And some of these ideas will oppose kind of your natural instincts, or what we've been sort of, I don't know, you could say, our habits are. So a lot of this is going to be contrary to normal habit. And if you choose to do the binder thing, if you choose to get a binder, and there's homeworks, and there's quizzes, and there's a final in the binder, and there's readings that are based on each class. And a great way to learn these courses is you come and you take the course, or you hear the course, and then you read the reading that's related to that class, and then you do your homework. And you can look at your notes. There's actually great notes in the binder that you can look at to do the homework. And then you throw out the notes. Don't look at the notes to do your quiz from that course. And then at the very end, there'll be a final. And if you do that, if you do the due diligence on that, you'll be blown away what happens. The stuff that you need to retain that will help you achieve Buddhahood will be in your mind. And the course is designed like that. So I thought it would be good right now to start out with a simple meditation. A very great meditation for stilling the mind. because there's no better way to think about these kinds of ideas than with a still mind, and you can put it in front of yourself, like what is renunciation, what is bodhicitta, or whatever. So let's close our eyes, get comfortable. Feel the weight of your body touching the earth. So wherever your body is touching any kind of surface, feel the weight, the connection there, and relax into that feeling of solidity. So feeling like you have a stable base by relaxing into it. And then to help us have a lifted heart and a straight spine, take a nice deep inhale and draw the crown towards the sky with the inhale. And then as you exhale, keep that nice lift of the crown, the slight lift of the crown as the shoulders relax. And then the slight lift of the heart as the shoulders relax. So you feel like you're stable in your seat, and you're also alert, attentive, but you're relaxed. Relax your jaw, relax your eyebrows. And the hands can be wherever it is most relaxing for them. Some people like to meditate with their palms up, some palms down, some with their hands folded in each other. Some people like to do a mudra, circling, making a circle between the thumb and the index finger. I find there's something about closing the circuit off between my thumb and my index finger that helps me stay straight. I notice that if I don't have that connection, for some reason, if I'm a little bit not totally awake, or I'm a little bit dull that day or something, I'll find I lean forward and to the right. After a while, I realize I've gone that way. But if I close off the circuit between the thumb and the index finger, something about that helps prop my body up. Very, very crucial to relax and not allow tension to mount anywhere. So you notice if your brows begin to furrow, notice if your jaw begins to tense, notice if you're beginning to think like, okay, I'm going to meditate. I'm a meditator now. I'm going to do this thing now. I'm going to do it good. Just try and let go of that idea. And what is very helpful in that department is giving yourself a gentle smile. It can be just a slight movement of the corners of the mouth upwards. It's more relaxing anyways for the jaw to do that. Let the tongue rest naturally. Sometimes it may be helpful to place it right at where the gums meet the top of the teeth. Top teeth, the roof of your mouth. That can also help with saliva control. Sometimes the saliva gets out of hand. So as soon as you start taking yourself too seriously, you've got to stop that. Put a little smile on and relax. Because the Buddha, right? A holy being, it's like they're nobody. All their personal investments in being something is been washed away. So if you notice that you're trying to be a meditator, look at me, I'm somebody, I'm meditating, then just have some amusement with that and let it go. So now we're going to do the mighty perfect 10. So you'll know, if I ever say the perfect 10, you'll know what to do. And that is simply watching your breath at the tip of the nostrils. So there are a couple of ways to think about this or experience this. Think of it as placing the awareness of your mind fully at the tips of your nostrils. Like you're a sentry at the door and you're watching anything that comes and goes. And it can be very helpful to try and detect physical sensation, a coolness, any of the wind that is passing and brushing the nose hairs. That can help make your attention more vivid. And we don't control the breath. Notice any tendency to want to change the breath. Allow it to be as it is. And begin to count the breath by punctuating the pause between the exhale and the inhale. So once you do an exhale, that would be 1. And then the next cycle of inhaling, exhaling, and then at that beautiful pause between the exhale and inhale, 2. And then the next exhale, inhale, pause, 3. So you may lose count at 4 and forget you're even counting. That often happens. Or you may get to 10 and just keep on going to 14 and 15. The idea is, if you make it to 10 without losing the object, which is the breath, counting the breath, start at 0 again. If you are at 4 or 3 or 2 and then you've just drifted off, the mind has been pulled away somewhere else, and you remember, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be counting my breath. Just relax, forget about whatever it is that you were thinking of, bring your mind back to the breath, and begin at 0 again. Most importantly, be happy that your mind returned. Because that moment of catching your mind being off on some other object that wasn't your choice, and gently bringing it back to the breath, you're training your mind in that moment. That is training your mind. That is building your stillness. So you should be happy. So I'll just be quiet now and count your breath. eyes and just keeping your gaze cast downward as you return. You want to emerge from meditation very softly. You don't want to abruptly jump out in hopes that the stillness or the peace that you cultivated can continue. So that's a good way to start any meditation that you may want to do. If you have a homework assignment and it says for 15 minutes think about renunciation, it's a great way to start like that. Start with that, get your mind settled in, and start contemplating. So this course is based on a text written by J. Tsongkhapa, the mighty J. Tsongkhapa. And J. Tsongkhapa, so J means Lord, so it's like Lord Tsongkhapa. Lord Tsongkhapa. And J. Tsongkhapa, he started the whole Gelugpa lineage, and he was the tutor of the first Dalai Lama. And he is one of the greatest figures of Tibetan Buddhism. One of the greatest figures. And he's written like 10,000 pages of scripture in his time, which is hard to comprehend. A person could write 10,000 pages of scripture while he was doing other things, you know. And I know that there's somebody in this room that can tell me his dates. Someone can tell me his years. Amanda's going to do it.
1357.
Yeah,
1490.
that's right. 1357 to 1419. Those are his dates. He wrote the Lamrim Chenmo, which is one of the greatest, they say one of the greatest texts ever written to describe Tibetan Buddhism and the practice of Tibetan Buddhism. And what in the Lamrim Chenmo, he takes all the 5 great books that they study in the monasteries. So on all the 5 great books, they study logic, they study middle way. You'll know what these all mean later, but they study morality, Abhidharma Kosha, knowledge, and what am I missing? Perfection of wisdom. So he took all those 5 great books and he sorted it all out and presented it in one book. And it is said that if you can get your head around the ideas in that book, then you can become a Buddha. That book can make you a Buddha. But it's so deep and so insane that very, very few people on the planet can actually understand it or even get through it. So he kept getting asked to write smaller and smaller versions of it. So the Lamrim Chenmo was 1,000 pages long. And then he wrote a simpler one that was 200 pages. 200 pages. And people still couldn't understand that. And so they said, Jason Kappa, please, could you write Buddhism for Dummies or something? So then he wrote one that was 10 pages. And they still said, dude, we need help. We need something even simpler than that. So then, as a challenge, he put the whole thing into like a poem. And it's called the Lamso Namsam. It's called the 3 principal paths. And that's what we're using as our main text for this course. And in 14 verses, he describes the whole Buddhist path. And so we're using that as our guide as we go through the courses, and we'll dissect each idea. Well, we won't dissect each of those ideas in this course, but in the 18 courses, they will get dissected, or you will dissect them in your lab. Guess what what's your lab? Life, yeah, the world. Oh, people are saying mind, it's always saying, so both, yeah. Life, your mind, yeah. Taking your mind to your life. Yeah, that's your lab. There's no other lab other than your everyday. And it's a great, great lab. His monk's name was Lobsang Drakpa. Lobsang Drakpa was his monk's name. Yeah. And so you'll hear that over and over again over the years. Lobsang Drakpa. So I thought it would be a blessing if we read off those 14 verses. And so I'm going to read them off, okay? And by the end of ACI 1, you should have a pretty good idea about what all these verses mean. You know, at least a pretty good idea. And as the years go by, see, it's just supposed to be a 5-year course, from ACI 1 to 18. It's supposed to take you 5 years to do it. And as the years go by, each one of these verses is going to mean something different to you as the years go by, because they are potential. They're just words, and your understanding of them will deepen. So let's everyone close their eyes, and I'll read it. Unless you're sleepy, you can open your eyes. He wrote this for one of his students, actually. He wrote this for one of his students that asked him to give him something simple that he could teach, that he could then pass on. So here we go. The 3 principal paths. I bow to all the high and holy lamas. As far as I am able, I'll explain the essence of all the high teachings of the victors, the path that all their holy sons commend, the entry point for the fortunate seeking freedom. Listen with a pure mind, fortunate ones, who have no craving for the pleasures of life, and who, to make leisure and fortune meaningful, strive to turn their minds to the path which pleases the victors. There's no way to end without pure renunciation, this striving for pleasant results in the ocean of life. It's because of their hankering life as well that beings are fettered. It's because of their hankering life that beings are fettered. So seek renunciation first. Leisure and fortune are hard to find. Life's not long. Think it constantly. Stop desire for this life. Think over and over how deeds and their fruits never fail, and the cycle's suffering. Stop desire for the future. When you've meditated thus and feel not even a moment's wish for the good things of the cycle of life, and when you begin to think both night and day of achieving freedom, you have found renunciation. Renunciation, though, can never bring the total bliss of matchless Buddhahood unless it's bound by the purest wish, and so the wise seek the high wish for enlightenment. They're swept along 4 fierce river currents, chained up tight in past deeds, hard to undo, stuffed in a steel cage of grasping self. smothered in the pitch black ignorance. In a limitless round they're born, and in their births are tortured by 3 sufferings without a break. Think how your mothers feel. Think of what's happening to them. Try to develop the highest wish. You may master renunciation and the wish, but unless you have the wisdom perceiving reality, you cannot cut the root of cyclic life. Make efforts in ways then to perceive interdependence. A person's entered the path that pleases the Buddhas when, for all objects in the cycle or beyond, he sees that cause and effect can never fail. And when for him they lose all solid appearance. You've yet to realize the thought of the able, as long as 2 ideas seem to you disparate. The appearance of things, infallible interdependence, and emptiness, beyond taking any position. At some point, they no longer alternate, come together. Just seeing that interdependence never fails brings realization that destroys how you hold the objects, and then your analysis of the view will be complete. In addition, the appearance prevents the existence extreme, emptiness, that of non-existence. And if you see how emptiness shows in cause and effect, you'll never be stolen off by extreme views. When you've grasped as well as I the essential points of each of the 3 principal paths explained, then go into isolation, my son. Make mighty efforts and quickly win your ultimate wish. And that is that's the whole Buddhist path in 14 verses. The sutra path. Yeah, so let's all stand up. Shake it up. It's good for your prana to do like a little. Yeah, just let it go. One more. Woo! You feel good? Yeah. I just feel like I just took a shower. Okay, let's sit back down. So the 3 principal paths. The 3 principal paths. What is a path?
A method, a way of going, maybe?
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it, for sure. Yeah, that's a path, for sure. Anybody else have an idea what a path might be?
So I think of music and the notes, and like a note in itself doesn't really have any real value until it's associated to the next note, and the relation between one note and the next note gives you a feeling of movement. And so I see the path being one moment to the next moment. So it just depends on how the one moment relates to the next moment.
Right, so like a movement. A progression, yeah.
The growth of your karmic condition.
The growth of your karmic condition, yeah.
Can't you walk backwards on a path, though?
Can you walk backwards on that? Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be progression or growth. It could be a regression. Or...
Yeah, it could be. I guess a path, depending on how you're looking at the path, you could be walking backwards on the path. Sure.
Just a way of something you follow.
Something you follow.
I think it's a choice.
It's a choice,
Maybe.
right? Yeah, it's interesting because in Tibetan Buddhism, a path means something a little different. A path is exactly what we've all been saying. Yes, it is a method. It is a path we choose. But the main meaning, when you hear the three principal paths, what that means are the three fundamental realizations. So a path is a realization. It's a realization. When you make something real. It was really cool. I was in church the other day, and I sing worship in a church. And the sermon that day was kind of about path. And he was talking about how Christianity, he called it it's a revealed path. So you can, hold the Bible and read the Bible and do all this praying and stuff like that, but it's only until something is revealed to you that you know. And for them, it would be, Christ lit up inside of them, or they had some kind of unification with something that they would call God. And so the idea is that God reveals himself to you, or Christ reveals himself to you. In Tibetan Buddhism, it would be more like you had a realization, something happened inside of you that made it very real. And often these kinds of things happen on the cushion, on meditation. Not always, though. Sometimes they just happen in the middle of the day, where you realize, oh, that's what that means. And so a path is a mental thing in Tibetan Buddhism. So there's stages of mental realization. So that might be a homework question. You might get asked something like, is a path a physical thing? And it's a mental realization. So somewhere in the three principal paths that we just read, he was alluding to when you reach a certain point. When you reach a certain point, then you can say that you have achieved renunciation. Do you remember? Some of you already know what this means, but before we talk about what renunciation is, he said, at a certain point, you can say, I have reached renunciation. I have achieved renunciation. When would that be?
You think about it night and day.
Yeah. When night and day you're consumed with getting yourself out of the cycle of suffering, and that's all you're thinking about. Like your whole life, everything that you do is revolving around this idea. So then your prostration becomes like, I'm prostrating to the idea of getting the heck out of the cycle of suffering. And once you've hit that place, then you could say that you've reached the path of renunciation. Let's talk about the three principal paths. What is renunciation? What does it mean to have renunciation?
It means to
to give something up. So you're renouncing something. So in Tibetan Buddhism, in order to become a Buddha, which is completely possible, that's the beauty of Buddhism. That's the whole idea around Buddhism, is that someone became one, and then began to teach people how to do it. So what do you give up? What do you put down in Tibetan Buddhism? What do you renounce? Do you renounce all your friends? Pardon?
Desire.
You renounce desire? So let's consider desire. I'm getting off the mall. Let's consider desire. It is unhealthy for me to desire Buddhahood. It is unhealthy for me to desire Buddhahood.
No.
Oh, it's not. It's not unhealthy for me to desire Buddhahood. It's not unhealthy. No, so you're saying it's so basically you're saying I should give up desire. So I have no desire now. Okay, I've given up desire. I don't want to be a Buddha anymore.
You need the,
Hmm?
I was just saying you need the fundamental desire for the path in the first place to achieve.
So desire.
Yeah.
So are you saying that desire in and of itself is not necessarily something that's troublesome?
No, it's an element.
It's an element,
Progression.
right?
It can,
Right. So there's a certain kind of desire that we need to stop. Not just desire. Is that what you're saying? What's your name again?
bearing.
Bearing. So bearing. Are you saying it's not exactly desire we must give up, but some kind of desire?
There is a certain desire in a typical sort of condition that might be harmful.
Oh.
Anyone in a Buddhist path might need that sort of stimuli to go forward. And if the Buddhist path can ultimately detach yourself from all desires, ending misery and samsaras and so on, then maybe like the suffering in that element isn't. The desire to move ahead in that element isn't so bad.
Right. So the desire. Okay. So I know you wanted to say something at this point. You had your hand up.
I was just like some this is Hindu scriptures.
Yeah.
Talk about like also giving up the desire for enlightenment. Like,
Yeah. So that is like we can go down that road and be there all day. Really, because ultimately, you could say, I mean, like Dzogchen meditations or whatever you may have it. There are certain meditations where if you reach a certain state, then desiring to become a Buddha is in your way. But if you're not there yet, if you're not at that place, if you're not at a place where you can sit in meditation and you have a mind that is so still that you can witness a flutter of desire that arises up and actually throws you off and makes you think there's something to become, then you can say desire's in your way. But if you're not at that kind of a place, then we need desire to go to get us to where we need to go, and it's amazing. Desire is a powerful force. Nothing would happen without desire. You wouldn't get out of bed in the morning without desire. Desire is power. What got you here tonight? It certainly wasn't a lack of desire. Right? So, but desire, we're in the right ballpark when we're talking about desire. So we're giving up some kind of desire.
Is the nature of what that desire is though? Is it like there's something out there that I can get for myself? That's the desire. You think it's self-existently going to make me happy or make me enlightened? Whereas is that the difference?
Well, yeah, because we're how do we renounce the idea? How do we renounce the basic mental concepts that are the cause for our suffering?
Isn't it like if, to some degree, we look around the world, and I know I was part of many groups that wanted to change, like you want to change the politicals, and you want to change this and that, and really the key was in changing yourself for for the ability to make a difference first, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so you losing that desire to try and control and for your own, but you try and have the desire to have a connection with the community, with the surrounding. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a difference of desire, right? For the selflessness.
Yeah, there's all kinds of desire. There's all kinds of desire. So, and there's very healthy desire, and there's desire that helps the community, and there's a desire that doesn't help the community.
Is it an unrelenting desire?
Well, I mean, you could say you could have an unrelenting desire to help people.
But I mean, if it's
Does unrelenting mean like non-stop, like unstoppable?
yeah, it means like you even if evidence were pointing to the contrary, you wouldn't be able to stop yourself. You know, if
Right.
you had this desire to what was your example, help the people?
Yeah.
But you desire to help them so much that even though they asked you to stop, or even though it was contradictory to their personal beliefs or something
Mhm.
like that, you wouldn't.
Well, sure. I mean, if your desire was such that you were harming people, even if you thought,
Yeah, if you thought you were helping them.
yeah, and if they were very clear, they were saying, well, you're harming people, then maybe that would be not so good. But if anyone in this room, I'll tell you right now, if your desire is to get out of the cycle of suffering, if your desire is to stop the projection of a suffering reality where you're forced into being, forced into old age, sickness, and death and rebirth in a constant stream, your desire better be pretty unrelenting to get out. You must have a strong desire to get out of that cycle for it to happen. It's kind of like I'm sure that you needed quite a bit of desire to become a pilot.
Perhaps they meant desire where you lost your equanimity.
Right.
Because then if you were striving towards Buddhahood and your desire were unrelenting, but you were losing your equanimity, well, then you'd be far from Buddhahood, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd have to say that you wouldn't be striving for Buddhahood or something like that. Like if you got so lost in your desire that you weren't on a path, and you began to like be unmindful and stepping over people and harming people, and thinking that would be like you wouldn't even be practicing Buddhism or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what basically renunciation means, it kind of means like disgust for this life. And it doesn't mean disgust for this life as in I better quit my job and I better cancel all my friends and not leave the house, or it doesn't mean that. What it means is understanding that putting your hopes in achieving happiness from worldly things is not going to work out. Like a permanent kind of a happiness, right? Because everything in a worldly life just leads to suffering, because everything ends. Anything that's brought about by causes ends. Any relationship that you're in, anything you buy. It's fine for a relationship to end. It doesn't harm us or causes suffering unless we think that relationship was the key to our happiness. That's when it causes the suffering. When a relationship ends, or we're in a relationship and we understand that this relationship is a beautiful relationship and is functioning for me to be in a loving relationship and happy in this relationship. And if we understand that that is born of karmic causes and not coming from that person, that's okay. That's like wisdom. That's like you're seeing where things come from.
So is that like an acceptance of the circumstance?
That's an acceptance of your karma. It's an acceptance of your karma. And that is, that's a lofty place to reach. If you can walk through the world in absolute acceptance, then you would be content. An absolute acceptance of everything that I'm seeing and experiencing is a result brought about by my own seed planting of the past. If you can actually pull that off, would be an amazing sort of acceptance, right? Anyways, this is an overview, so we'll be going into all this stuff really, really deeply as the courses go by, and even more so in this course. But even things that seem to be going well, it's the rising and the falling, and we put our hopes into that. Oh, this is going to be great, and then it changes, and it's based on the opposite of wisdom, which is the third principal path. But the first one is renunciation, and it's one of the principal paths because without it, it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out. If you don't have the awareness that the car, the partner, the job, the clothes, if you don't have the awareness that those things cannot, in and of themselves, give you any sort of lasting happiness, then you won't become a Buddha. You can't, because too much of your time will be spent trying to get those things instead of trying to get Buddhahead, instead of trying to get a mind of the Buddha. So that's the first principal path, renunciation. What's the second one? Renunciation followed by the wish. Bodhicitta, the wish to become a totally enlightened being. Jangsen. Jangsen. It's a state of mind. And it's all through the scriptures you see it. You see great lamas, begging, please, please give me the wish for enlightenment. Give me the wish for enlightenment. Give me the wish for enlightenment. Because have you noticed that we are driven by what we wish for? It's deep. It's deep. It's amazing what we can accomplish if we want to do it. If we want to do it, man, it's amazing. I remember when I was first starting music, and I had a 4-track. I remember I got a Fostex 4-track recorder, and I had the manual out, and I figured out how to do this and that and this and that. But I really wanted to make good recordings on that thing. And so I spent like all my spare time on that little Fostex 4-track. And I sucked the life out of it. I figured out how to get 10 tracks out of that thing. And I was like bouncing tracks back and forth and doing this ping pong thing. And I had I was recording some things, but then I was shaking things in this hand. And by the time I was done, I would be like amazed by this recording that I had made. But I put a lot of time into that, a lot of passion into that. Because I wanted to. And nothing was going to stop me from doing that. Nothing was going to stop me from doing that. And that caused some of my relationships to suffer. Maybe that was the kind of desire you're talking about. Right? When will you spend some time with me? Maybe I'm with the Fostex. Yeah. And that's the kind of desire that you need. So give me the wish for Buddhahood. Give me the wish for Buddhahood, so that every day I get up, I have the wish for Buddhahood. Then I'll want to meditate. Then I'll want to do my yoga. Then I'll want to make sure that I'm loving people. Then I'm gonna want to make sure that if I'm angry, I catch myself. Then I'm gonna want to make sure that as soon as I judge some person, that I catch myself and hold it, stop it, reassess the situation. Because why is bodhicitta so? But this bodhicitta, the mind, it's not just the wish to become enlightened. There's another part of that. There's another very important part of that statement. Yeah, the wish to become a totally enlightened being for the sake of every other living being. So you're like the ultimate altruistic person, the bodhisattva. Has an understanding. You gain this understanding that how am I going to help people? I mean, really help people. I can offer money, and I can offer my time, and I can give things away and stuff like that. But what can I give? What can I give people that would actually give them a way out of the whole thing? Away from thirst. How can I stop the causes for thirst? How can I stop the causes for death? How can I stop the causes for sickness? How do I help like that? There's only one way. You reach this point where he's like, I got to become a Buddha. There is no other way I'm going to do it. I got to become a Buddha if I'm going to be the ultimate helper. And that has a way of inflaming your mind and taking over your whole consciousness. And if you reach the path of bodhicitta, then there's no stopping you at that point. Because to reach the path, the realization of bodhicitta, that means, we'll talk lots about this later, but that means that you've seen ultimate reality directly. And this heart that most people have a heart that's clenched and is defending. Don't get too close. Don't make me feel vulnerable. And it's like a fist. Very hard, right? Very hard to love with equanimity. Very hard to love someone who's causing us pain. Very hard to forgive someone who appears to have gone out of their way to cause us harm. A holy being doesn't have any of that, see. A holy being has reached a cessation of those kinds of things. Their heart is completely free and open. And it's reachable, it's attainable. It just, you have to go through this process of opening and opening. When you have like this divine experience of meditating hard enough and long enough and thinking about these kind of things enough so that your mind drops into a certain state where you see ultimate reality directly, one of the side effects of that happening is your heart literally cracks open, and this thing that's been held so tightly goes, and you have compassion for every being. And that's called ultimate bodhicitta. And that's one of the prerequisites for becoming a holy being, right? That's one of the prerequisites. And that in itself is worth everything to reach that place.
So is that like saying that, sometimes we think like it's better, the other person has a better, they're luckier. They're luckier. And we think if we just had that luck, or we just had it, the same, that it would be better for us.
Right.
But in the reality, we're both facing the same trials. We're both
Yeah.
under the same actual experience.
Sure. Unless they're out of the cycle,
Unless they.
which we don't know. That's the thing about it. Is because of the reality of the fact that we're projecting our reality. But what you're saying is true. If only I was Bill Gates. If only I was Paul McCartney. God, if I could only write that many songs. What must it be like to be able to open your mouth and write, 100 hits, right? Wouldn't that and if Paul McCartney is not a Buddha, Paul McCartney is suffering. Paul McCartney his body will break down and he will die and he will have to do it all again. And his royalties will be gone. There will be no royalties in the next one, right? But he made a lot of people happy. So he'll probably be doing all right in the next lifetime. But he could be a Buddha. We don't know. But yeah, that's a nice way of saying that. And we fall into that trap of thinking, or the opposite, thinking, oh yeah, I'm better off, I'm happier because I have a house and this person's on the street. That's another mad idea. We don't have no idea these people living on the street. Have you ever lived on the street before? Maybe it's awesome. I don't know. I'm sure there are pros and cons to both. They do seem to have a lot of time on their hands.
I've spoken to a lot of them.
What's that?
I've spoken to,
Yeah.
I used to do security, and I spoke to and
Yeah.
actually some of them said they want to live
Yeah.
on the street. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a different kind of idea of what is going to make them happy, right? But so now, what's the third principal path? Wisdom. And what is wisdom? In Tibetan Buddhism, what is wisdom?
The right way of cultivating right thinking.
Right thinking. Yeah. And what is right thinking?
It's a state where it might be more along the lines of the three paths and all the things involving.
That's definitely one way. That's definitely one way of right thinking. That is definitely one way of right thinking. Because part of what makes, well, let's say correct view, right way of thinking. Incorrect view, according to Buddhism, would be not believing in karma and not believing in past and future lives. Okay, that's part of that. But there's also another aspect to wisdom, and this part of wisdom, everything revolves around this one idea. Everything revolves. This is the thing that makes it all work. The emptiness. Emptiness. What's that?
I just think compassion.
Well, yeah, that's a good answer. It's a very good answer, my brother. Compassion is no compassion, no Buddhahood. Emptiness. The slippery, greasy pig that is emptiness. It is so hard to hold in your hand. So, emptiness means, what does emptiness mean? Emptiness means something that isn't there. Something that is not there. Something is empty of. So let's use this object as our tool for today. Okay? What is this? It's an iPhone. It's an iPhone. Okay. Some of you have heard this They say you need to hear this like 20,000 times for it to go in, okay? Because the world appears so much the opposite of what I'm about to demonstrate, okay? Is this really an iPhone? No, it's not really an iPhone. What is it?
It's a representation of this transient nature of realities is the current representation of this object in complete impermanence. So you could label it right now, but it will come and go like everything else. So really, it's just an emanation, I think, at this point.
So my phone is emanating?
Yeah, like us, like me talking, my whole experience is at this point.
Yeah.
Emanating to my physical reality.
So okay, so this object is emanating into our physical reality right now as an iPhone.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So that means it's an iPhone.
Yeah, isn't that all it is to be an iPhone?
Pardon?
Isn't that all it is to be an iPhone? To be a transient?
To be a oh, so any transient thing is an iPhone?
No, but eternal existence isn't required for reality.
Right. So for something to exist, it doesn't need to be untransient. It can be constantly changing and actually exist.
But not permanently.
But not permanently.
Yeah.
So you're saying that this is going to end? My iPhone?
Yeah. Like I think that's where the perception of permanency comes with
Right.
A lot of things. A view
Right.
of being
Okay.
here forever.
All right. So when you look at this object, you say you think iPhone, right? And then because you've also obviously studied some things, also can conceptualize the fact that it's constantly changing and going in and out of existence, perhaps, and will eventually just disintegrate and be gone. And it's transient. Right now, it's an iPhone.
So if you're asking a question in absolute, right, of what it is,
Yeah.
then we have to ask ourselves also, where did it start, and where did it come from? And so this is actually part of a representation of life. Life being anything that existed as in life, because the metal, all those materials come from stardust, from bacteria that was eating oxygen that created metal, that the metal actually turned into something that migrated into something else by the migration of atoms. So it is a snapshot of what life has been able to.
So this is all of reality.
Yes.
This is the whole thing right here.
Transferring. No, well, everything is. It's like it's a representation of what the highest level of.
No wonder it's $700.
So you
All the whole cosmos is somehow in this phone. Okay. What about a dog? What does a dog see?
Oh, my dog grabbed mine when it was ringing and took it to the garden.
Began to text?
It was a puppy. She was a puppy, so I guess she saw like, what is this thing doing, vibrating and doing this is weird noise and shining, and I just took it to the dirt to explore it. And it didn't break.
And it didn't break. The universe didn't break that time. So, okay, so what would you say? So, what did the dog see then? A toy?
Yeah, and you think to discover.
Okay. So, the dog sees something that we do not see. What about a human? What about a human that has no idea about an iPhone? It's just, come out of a 3-year retreat before iPhones even began, and you went, you want to use my phone? No, and they looked at it. What would they see? Would they see an iPhone? Probably not.
We have a pretty particular perspective of what an iPhone is, and that is based on our karmic condition of what we're born into, all the media we've seen, and all that stuff.
Right. Okay. What about a baby? You put this in front of a 2-year-old.
Well,
Right in the mouth.
I know a 2-year-old who knows how to go to Netflix.
I don't doubt that one little
And
bit.
she knows how to find
Right.
Dora.
But are
These
you,
days.
are you asking the question of like, I mean, what I'm struggling with here is that if you give a dog enough time,
This shows great promise. Please continue.
evolution now.
the
Yes.
dog's going to figure out something about this phone, something about this object that it's different, or it's
Right.
going to have some characteristic of it. It's going to, if at a moment it's going to see that the phone is something of a phone of some characteristic. So, and the
So you're
baby-
gonna say? So you're telling me that at some point the dog is gonna like, that's a phone.
But the dog is never gonna be able to grab it.
the dog will see your
No
association.
opposable thumbs, dude. What's that?
The dog will see the association the way you treat the object.
Okay.
It will observe you in the relation between you and
Okay.
other things, and it will give it enough time. It will learn with just observing. So
Right.
when you, and the same with the baby. Like babies
Right.
look at their parents, and babies look at objects, and
Yeah.
so my point is that when you ask the question, what is it going to see?
So you're saying an object is learned?
It's a karma.
No, I think an object is when it comes exposed. So it's a case of you already have that knowledge. It's just that you haven't actually exposed it to yourself. It's already inside you, but you haven't actually opened it up.
Okay. So every baby is born with an iPhone inside of
Every baby's born with all the knowledge inside.
Okay.
The capacity to learn, but at the moment when the baby finds it first, it doesn't have any idea what it is.
Yeah, but it's not to say that it won't.
Okay. Okay.
So it has
How about
potential.
a spider? If I had this like this and a spider was walking up to it, what would the spider see?
Well, how many times has the spider walked up to it?
Well, it doesn't really matter at this point. In this point of the argument, in our little debate, it doesn't really matter how many times. Let's just say it's the 500th time the spider has approached this object. Does it see an iPhone yet?
It's a
Well,
gigantic
it's
wall.
A wall.
Because if
Wow.
you look, like I said, the bacteria, right, that created the metal, right, that bacteria that existed on Earth failed billions of times before it actually got the chance of living and actually surviving. So life has got a way of actually figuring things out. The mind of the universe has got a way of figuring things out without actually knowing about things, right? So it's that I don't know if
So what you're saying is like, eventually this cosmic spider will eventually have lived enough lifetimes to walk toward this object and to deduce the fact
not
that
the,
see the same thing we all see.
not the spider, but the life in the spider.
Be it.
So the spider doesn't know what it's doing.
It doesn't.
It doesn't know that it's a spider.
It doesn't know it's a spider.
No.
How do you know?
Well, how do you know you're human?
I don't.
Exactly.
But I do know
But how?
because I'm human.
But how do you know?
How do I know I'm human?
Yeah.
Because
Oh, nothing. I was going to say that every belief is transient, so I've never
Yeah.
been able to figure that out myself
Yeah.
too.
well, anyways, just before we get off the rails too far, I would love to go off the rails for an hour. This is fun, but for the purpose of this class, this is what we need to know. Where is iPhone inside this object?
No, it's
It's interaction
interaction between us and the object.
between us and the object.
I mean, we make it an object.
We make it an object. Okay. All right. So how about any other object in the universe? How about this? I mean, an iPhone's like a loaded object these days. How about this thing? Marker, right? Is marker inside this object?
No.
Couldn't be, right? When you walk down the street, are you aware of that fact? Are you aware of the fact that everything that you're seeing is not in the objects that you're seeing? So if there is no, if the marker is not here, where is the marker? Where is the marker? Where is the marker coming from if it's not in the object? Pardon?
Sorry. From God market.
From God market? You guys start your own course, you know, whole other thing, and the God market, and all objects are everything, and
That's all it is these days.
It's
I love
coming from our mind.
from the mind. So we are projecting reality. We are projecting a reality. We are projecting marker. What if the marker was here? What if this thing was a marker from its own side? What if there was essence de marker inside this thing and it was emanating marker? What would that have to mean?
It could only be a marker.
It could only be a marker.
Everything would only see it as that.
Right.
And it's permanent. I mean,
It would have to be permanent. Permanent marker.
yeah.
It would have to be unchanging.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. But life does not look like that. We walk around. Most people, normal people, walk around and go through their life believing that the qualities that they see, the qualities that we see in the objects around us, including the people, that those are emanating qualities. And those qualities have power to make us happy or to make us angry, averse to the object. Right? And what it comes down to is why? Why do we see a marker? If what makes a dog is the fact that this object appears as a chew toy. That's what makes a dog. So this is kind of flirting with your question. What makes a person a human is the fact that they see a marker. And then it's like a kind of a consensual reality in a sense where we're all experiencing this as a marker. But human being is not like, that's not A+ yet. You haven't graduated. That's not 100%. That might be like 80%. Maybe it's 50%. I don't really know what the percent, how you could do percentage. Because if you've gone like beyond human, if you've actually meditated like a madman or a madwoman, and you have decided that, if you decided that my personal thoughts and my personal words and actions have put into place the very reality that I'm experiencing right now. And if you've really bought that idea, and then you've meditated, you've taken care of people, you've watched your morality, you've thought about these things enough so that you forced through the projection. You forced the projection through and into your reality so that you no longer project me as a normal human seeing a marker. You're projecting like some tantric deity. You're projecting a holy being, right? This is just, it's potential. It's shapes and colors. It's potential. Dog, human, oh, permanent marker. Tantric deity, holy being. It's just an object of bliss. One more object that puts them into like the state of bliss. Because bliss is always in relation. So if it's possible to force through the karma, to force the karma through your reality, to have the karma, to have the virtue of perceiving yourself as a being with a wide open heart that has no favoritisms as far as who deserves your love and who doesn't, has no resistance to people, has no investment in a self that is so deep that won't give their time, won't share. And it's all based upon this one idea. Because if it wasn't true, if that idea wasn't true, then what would that mean? Because, okay, we've just had a little fun debate about this object. It was a good time. And if we can agree that one basic concept stands for this, in this object, in the case of this one object, can there be anything outside of that truth then? Can we think of something? Can we think of something that we can experience in our reality that our mind is not imputing the meaning onto? I mean, it doesn't make any logical sense. How can some things in reality be self-existent and some things not be self-existent? So we've just agreed that this object is not self-existently a marker. So can there be any object that is self-existent? Can there be any object that is emanating the essence of it so that every being that looked at it would have to agree, okay, that's what that is, as soon as they see it? Could awareness be like that? So that's a very good question. We're getting deep. Could awareness be? I mean, what's awareness? Right? I mean, that's another whole subject in itself. But there's what's mind, right? What's mind? Mind has a quality of being clear and aware. But awareness itself, we're in very big trouble right now. We should really go off the deep end here. It's tempting. But maybe we'll do that some other time. Depending on what your idea of awareness, because you can think of there's the thing that gives us the ability to have this amazing show that is life, John arising from this something, right? Am I human? Hell no, I'm not human. What if I was human? Could I be anything else? If I was human, ultimately, I could never be anything else. I could never have been anything else. I could never change. I could never improve. I could never become John Plus. But so, even my thoughts are also that way. The very thoughts that I'm having are also don't have self-existence. It would be impossible for them to be self-existent. But where is it all coming from? What is this awareness? So no, I'm not human. I am something projecting a human reality? Maybe. Don't know, do you? You see? This is what we do all the time. Sorry, Carol. We assume. We assume so many things. So many things. We assume. We assume, right? We assume. We assume that we know what someone looks like. We assume that we know what someone's thinking, or that we assume that we know what they think about us. We assume that we know what they see when they look in the mirror because we see them. Do we assume that there's no enlightened being in this room? Are we all just human here? If reality is directly proportionate, is a direct result of your karma, then what you're seeing is what you are. What you're seeing is your karma. You will not see a totally enlightened Buddha unless you have the karma to see a totally enlightened Buddha. And when you do have the karma to see a totally enlightened Buddha, then you're pretty darn close yourself. Because that's what it takes. So, if you're living a life and you're starting to feel like, wow, there's some really extraordinary people around me, and it's like, wow, I think that person might be like an angel or something. And you're even entertaining that thought. Where does that thought come from? You're even entertaining the concept of, you know what, bloody heck, I could become a Buddha. You're even thinking those kinds of thoughts. That is a karma. So that's correct view. That's correct view. It's like I'm projecting my reality. My reality is coming from me. I am happening to the world. It's not happening to me. Sean.
Wondering, how do you go from an intellectual understanding of that to actually knowing it in your everyday life? Because
You have to see emptiness directly. That's the only way you can. Because that is the only way you can. A person can study these kinds of ideas, and you should, over and over and over again. Like every time you see some object, it's a great meditation to sit there and what am I assuming about this object? Where do I think the qualities are coming from this object? And you go against your own belief over and over, and you prove it to yourself. You just go through what we just did. What we just did in this room was a perfect emptiness contemplation. You go into meditation and you put a pen up there in front of your mind, or even to put a cup in front of you with your eyes open. You stare at it and you go, okay, where's the cup? Where is that cup? It looks like it's out there. It looks like it's a cup out there, but where is the cup? And you try to catch that. So that is how you do that kind of thing over and over and over and over until you get like freaky feelings and you start to really wonder what the heck is going on around here. And you meditate and you serve a teacher and you treat people with kindness and you beg your teacher to bless your mind. You beg holy beings to bless your mind. And then one day you'll be sitting there on your cushion and your mind will go to the first level of the form realm, where your mind will leave the desire realm. God, we're going so way off track. But it's your fault. You will have a direct experience of emptiness, and in that time, you will be gone to yourself. It will be like you'll be unconscious, and you will see what cannot be seen with the dualistic kind of perception, and then you'll come back down. And after that point, you will never ever again in your life believe that things have a nature of their own. They will still appear that way. You'll still be able to hold a marker and say that sure looks like it's coming from someone's side, but I know it isn't. I know it isn't, and no one can tell you otherwise. Yes.
Is it like you have to go there, like you have to have been there before reaching enlightenment?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
And is it happen like is there like a step by step like that happens and then something else has to happen before reaching enlightenment, or that happens as enlightenment? Or
Well, there's a lower, I should say lower. There's a certain school of Buddhism who believes they call that enlightenment.
the nirvana.
They call an enlightened being someone who has seen emptiness directly. They call it a form of enlightenment. The Mahayana path, they don't say that. They say that that person has become an Arya, or a realized being. And then there's another, and also then there's another school that believes that nirvana is enlightenment. When you reach the end of your mental afflictions, that's enlightenment. But
Which school, sorry, believes that?
that's the Hinayana school.
Oh, wow.
We're gonna go into that.
And
We got a whole
has
course.
to do also with the times, like
Pardon?
with the times of Buddhism when they,
I'm sorry.
how it has to do with like the different times after the Buddha, when they started realizing like first it's just to reach nirvana, then it's to also reach enlightenment. Like
Well, yeah. You see, the thing is, it's definitely a progression, but bodhicitta, like so. If you gain bodhicitta and your wish is to become totally enlightened for the sake of every other living being, and that's what's driving you. If you have a direct perception of emptiness while that is on your mind, then that how would you say it, skyrockets you into a different sort of projection than not having that great altruistic wish on your mind when you see like a selflessness or something. And so it's really like that. It's like, what's on your mind? What's your motivation? And so when you reach ultimate bodhicitta, that's what happens. You see ultimate reality directly, but at the same time, your mind is completely infused with this. It's like sponge. It's like soaked with this wish to become totally enlightened for the sake of every other living being. And it's that combination of that intense wisdom and that intense love for other beings that combines in that moment. And then once you have that perception, that moment erupts in your mind stream, you're a completely different being after that. And then you're not far off from total enlightenment at that point. So now I'm gonna have to like rattle off some details so that you can answer your homework. Okay. The three principal paths that I said in the beginning, written by Jason Kappa, okay, and the commentary on that, the commentary that we'll be using that is sort of dissecting that and explaining that is written by Pabonka Rinpoche. Pabonka Rinpoche was the teacher of Trijang Rinpoche, and Trijang Rinpoche was one of Pabonka Rinpoche's most closest students, and who actually wrote down a lot of the stuff that Pabonka Rinpoche said. Pabonka Rinpoche was he lived from 1878 to 1941, and his secret name was Daishin Nyingpo. Daishin Nyingpo. Daishin Nyingpo means like great bliss. Daishin Nyingpo means like, they just gave him this name, great bliss. It's like you take the most blissful moment you ever had in your life, multiply that by about 100 or 1,000, and imagine what that experience is. That's the name given. This is what you are. Daishin Nyingpo.
Which lineage is he from?
Pardon?
Which lineage? Do you know which lineage?
Galupa. Jala. So in his former life, he was Chankya Rolpe Dorje. And that's 1717 to 1786. And he was a teacher of the Emperor of China at that time. So he was recognized as being the reincarnated being that was that. So Ken Rinpoche was the very, very famous Lama who wrote Liberation in the Palm of Your Hands, but he became very well known he began to teach lay people, people that weren't ordained, and he became to teach more and more and more, and he got so famous that whenever he taught, thousands and thousands of people would come to hear him speak, and monks and laymen alike would come, and he would teach like 10,000 people at once. He became so well known, and he also wrote. I mean, in his discussion, it was like 26-day discussion on the Buddhist path, which became the book Liberation in the Palm of Your Hands, which means here it is, use this and become enlightened, kind of thing. Was written down by his student Trijang Rinpoche. And the student of Trijang Rinpoche was Ken Rinpoche. Ken Rinpoche Geshe Lobsang Tharchin. He's no longer alive. 1921 to I think 84. I think it was. It's not written here, but I think it's 84. But he was big time Geshe in a monastery. Rinpoche. He was a Halumpra Geshe, and it was the highest Geshe you could become. The highest Geshe you can become. He was one of those. So out of like thousands of monks, like 4 or 5 of them reached this state, and Ken Rinpoche was one of those. And he came to New Jersey to teach, and Geshe Magaroch became his student. And Ken Rinpoche is the one that wrote the introduction in the binder. It's a beautiful introduction in the binder. So everything that we're doing in this course is based on. Oh, there he is. Yeah. Let's see. That's what.
It's right over there.
He's right over there. There he is. Yeah, that's him. Ken Rinpoche.
What does Rinpoche mean?
High Lama.
And what does Geshe mean?
Geshe is a degree. You've achieved. A Geshe is a master of Buddhism.
Okay.
A degree. So there's Ken Rinpoche. You can look at that picture. So just to give you an idea of where all this stuff's coming from. So there's a student of Jason Kampa called Nyawang Drakpa Sako Wangpo. So at some point, Geshe Magaroch, Jason Kampa told him, build me 108 monasteries. And he did it. And while he was out there, he said, Holy Teacher, can you please give me some pith instruction, something simple that I can use to teach with? So that's where it came from. So it's a letter. It's a poem and it's a letter to his student. The 3 principal paths that I read over in the beginning. And the 3. We talked about this, but we didn't really go into it. But there's 3 scopes of Buddhism, or 3 great divisions of Buddhism, and it's all based on motivation. And the reason why it's divided like that is because motivation is so important, right? That's why when you have the wish to help all beings in your mind, when you see things directly, it offers up a much different result than if you are only in it for yourself. So it's not that these are like lesser practitioners. It just means that their motivation is different, and their motivation is such that if your motivation is to help more people, then your result will be greater. That's a way to think about it, okay? So the lesser scope, it's called the lesser scope, their motivation to practice, to do all the stuff that we're doing, their motivation is to simply escape a lower rebirth. Is to simply somehow put the karma into place that when they die and are reborn, they're not born as an animal.
Does it work?
Pardon?
Does it work for them?
Sure it does.
Yeah?
Absolutely it does. Yeah, they say there's a place, there's a position that you reach in your studies in Buddhism before you see emptiness directly on the path of preparation, where you reach a certain point where you pass over this line and you can no longer take a lower rebirth. So, and that's before you see emptiness directly. So that the karma gets into your mind stream so that it stops you from.
But just the immediate, like, it's just for the immediate afterlife?
Yeah.
Or, okay, it doesn't work if in the afterlife you didn't use your karma well, like, then you can also go lower.
Well, that's topic for another time. But yeah, there's things you can do in the bardo in the in between. There's trainings to. Is that what you mean?
Like what I'm saying is just not the security that you will never go to a lower rebirth. If you don't use it wisely, then you can eventually go.
Yeah. So you mean like you're using this life in such a way that you don't have to have a lower rebirth? Is that what you mean?
That was what you said.
Yeah, that's what I said. And what am I? Is that different than what you just said?
No, what I'm saying is just like it is a way to escape from the lower rebirth, but just for the immediate afterlife.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not escaping for for all of your next life.
Oh no, they just Well, the whole idea being that they'll get another shot. The whole idea being they'll be human again.
Yeah.
And they can continue.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Good point. So then, the medium scope, one up from that, is the wish to escape the cycle of suffering. And each one of these motivations is for themselves alone, right? Not wanting to have a lower rebirth for themselves alone, and this medium scope, wanting to get out of the cycle of samsara, just wanting to get free of the cycle of suffering for themselves alone. And then the highest school, or the scope, I should say, is they want to reach total enlightenment, total Buddhahood, for the sake of every other living being, to benefit all beings. So those are the three motivations that that's how the Lam Rim is divided. That's how the Lam Rim texts and the Buddhist studies are divided with those motivations. And so we need to discuss briefly this thing called the 3 problems of the pot. And who is the pot? Would you say? If I said the 3 problems of the pot, the student is the pot. So anyone who's like receiving a teaching. So they say that we want to avoid being pots like this if we're students. Okay? These are the 3 pots. The lid is closed. What would that mean if you had a closed lid on your pot? Right. Boing, right? Just bounces right off. I've been there many times. I've definitely sat in teachings and just went, this is just like bouncing off my head. My pot is closed right now. Another one, dirty pot. What would that be? Pot's dirty. Needs to be washed.
Ooh.
Yeah, and why? Because what is poor?
Like a lot of
I just talked about it. What separates the motivation? Like why are you studying the teaching? What's your motivation? So a dirty pot would be like, I'm going there to impress my friends, right? I want to learn some fun new words and impress my friends, something like that. And then we don't want to be what? A leaky pot. What if we're a leaky pot?
I don't remember any of it.
Yeah, it all just goes out. Which is why one of the qualities. What's that?
I'm a leaky pot.
Can you use the washroom?
No, I just.
Sorry. I couldn't resist.
It was too good.
Yeah. No, we're all leaky pots. I shouldn't say we're all. I definitely am I mean, the only reason why I know some of this stuff is because I've been forced to teach it. I've studied it so much that I'm leaking, but it's all going in. It's retaining enough. Okay, and so I just need to say one more thing before we wrap up, so that you can actually answer everything. We'll talk a lot about this because, you see, very quickly, what we want to do, Buddhism is not about trying to make samsara nice or cope with reality or, have a pleasure cruise or make it nicer. It's the whole idea is no. We can actually get right out of the whole thing. And there are 4 great sufferings that make up the cycle of suffering. Taking birth, involuntary birth in this body, involuntary. I mean, because you can take a birth if you're some kind of tulku or great being. You can say, okay, I will be born, and I will help, right, and be conscious of your birth. So, involuntary birth in this body, getting sick, getting old, death. And everyone that has a human body that was forced into a rebirth all have those ailments. Get sick. You see, but, until you hear, well, wait a minute, that doesn't have to be how it is. You can plant seeds in your mind to force a different projection. You can force through into your mind stream projecting no rebirth, no sickness, no age, and no death. Those are projections. Because your body, the makeup of your body, is just the same as this. It's not coming from its own side. So it's possible to put the causes into place for that to happen. So they're saying that's the goal, to get out of that whole thing, not to make it okay. Because until you hear that kind of idea, generally most of us are like, yeah, well, that's life. Everybody's born, everybody gets sick, and everybody dies, and we all have our ups and downs, and I'll be high for a while, and I'll be low again, and yeah, I'll go through all this stuff, and da-da-da-da-da, and I can deal with that. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to stop it, get right out into a whole other reality, and it's possible. It's possible, and if you study this stuff enough, you'll see. You will be able to logically come to the conclusion that it is entirely possible and that there isn't any other way to make any sort of lasting bliss, happiness, love be your state. Because if you don't get there, then it's just more of the same. So that's class 1, ACI 1. And you can you can do all your homework from that. Thank you for the great questions and debating and stuff. It was great. Yeah. Come on, Marge, we're closing up. Sange Shindu Miteu Giro Kunanda Shingma Pasho Idanguru Ratnamandala Kandritayami Dikeokun Sunam Yeshe Lemuwe Sampakuni Topasho. Thank you, everybody. Oh, yeah.
So everybody can leave their stuff here because there's a class tomorrow, so we're just gonna leave it.
Oh, yeah.
The way it used to work is that somebody would volunteer to make the binders for everybody. And since we moved locations, we thought to not do that. But if somebody wants to do that for everybody else, put your hand up. Otherwise, you just go to acidharma.org. There's a zip file. You download course 1. You get it all printed out and you put it in a binder.
Thank you.
Oh yes, and if you used a glass, just wash glass.
Great. Himana, I can't stop this
Oh,
because
it's okay.
it's I need the passcode. Is oh, yeah, thank you.
Just say there was a class tomorrow.
Yeah, ACI 14. So this was 1. It's 14. So
Oh, I see. So you go, you skip like.
yeah, I'm teaching that one tomorrow as well. And so yeah, so every Monday is this one.
Okay.
So it'll be class 2 next Monday.
Right.
And tomorrow night is class 2 of ACI 14. It's about opening the heart.
I made my theory. I practice. I do Vipassana all the time.
Oh, great.
I get my theory. I do my theory.
We need your theory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have
it's great if you're doing.
Yeah, and it's really weird. Like I've been to a lot of empowerments and stuff like that, but I need to get a really good fundamental
Oh, that's a good theory.
impression on the theory of things.
Oh man, it's so valuable because I myself was like that.